Good morning, everyone. Today is July 23rd, 2019, and we're really excited to share with you the second segment of the Personal Destiny Reports, okay, that we started last week. And so Michael will talk to you more about it, why it's important to watch the first one, then move to the second one, and what that actually means. So good morning, Michael, and we'll start. You can share and show them the actual report.
Okay, good morning, and today we're going to talk about the love connection between two people. This is kind of like a lover's report, and what it'll do is shows how you'll connect with each other, how your significant cards connect with each other over the course of your lifetime. So you'll be able to get an insight into how the one sees you and how you see them. And I think clarity in a relationship's a big deal. This really allows a special insight that you probably didn't think about before. So I'm going to go to share my screen.
And I just want to say, Michael, I think it's really important because everybody is more into the physical, and the relationships are very soulful, and we come together to assist each other on our soulful journey. Okay, that's the whole idea of moving more into the Aquarian rather than Piscean. And so I really, really like this report, but that's why you can say the first report is really important so they understand themselves. Okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to try and find this report, and I'm going to share it. And you tell me when you see it.
Okay.
Share.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so this is what it looks like. This is the printed report that's computer generated again. So this will be Sandra's and mine, and this is our connection through Cosmos over the course of a lifetime. These don't really change, okay? This is who we are and how kind of we see ourselves and our relationship with the other person, how we interact with each other. And so if you haven't seen the first segment on the Destiny Report, that's probably where you should start, because the cards are a continuation of that from that report, okay? So now to move on to this one. How to get the most from this relationship report. Again, in interests of brevity of time, it's very clear here. If you run through this, you read it all before you start your report, it becomes very clear. Now you can see that our cards, okay? Now these are the cards that matter over the course of our lifetime. My birth card, my planetary ruling card, reacts or interacts with Sandra's birth card, her planetary ruling card, and her second karma card, okay? We didn't talk about the karma cards in the first report. They're a little bit, they matter more here in this one, okay? They weren't such a big deal in the first one, although we could go farther into depth, but that takes, again, more time, right? So over the course of the lifetime, there will be 10 significanters that really matter, okay? The first being the most important, excuse me, and as we go through them, as we get lesser and lesser and lesser importance, as we get down through to the 10th significanter, okay? The first and strongest is Sandra, is the Saturn card to Michael in the spiritual spread. So Sandra and I have a connection spiritually from a past life, okay? Now Sandra understands, excuse me, the astrology, that's sort of her area of expertise. Now Saturn is a planet that is about lessons. Now Sandra, can you expand a little bit? Although it's clearer in the report, it'll tell you what it means, but Sandra can give you a bit of an idea.
What Saturn is really all about a teacher and about responsibility, accountability, and lessons. And Saturn's always given a bad rap We have to understand in third dimension, if we are ever going to manifest anything, we really have to get an understanding of Saturn. And Saturn is our base chakra. Everybody wants to go to the enlightenment, but you'll never get there because you'll be in delusion unless you grasp your Saturn. So Saturn is learning for both parties involved. That's how I see it.
Okay, so then we take that first Saturn, okay, that's our first and strongest connection that we have to look at. And we can move down and we go through, again, it talks about my personal cards, okay, these are my significantors, these two here. So we will go through those in greater detail so you'll have a better understanding. Let's say Sandra would read this and she would have a better understanding of me and perhaps me myself, right, of myself. But we go through the cards, we go down to that first connection, all right? So the first connection is between my Jack of Hearts and her Three of Clubs, okay? And this is the most important of all and represents the dominant pattern that is in your relationship. All right, now we'll go through here and tell us how we interact with each other, what this connection means, how Sandra affects me because she is Saturn to me, right? Which means I experience her more profoundly in this particular connection, okay? And so then it will explain through the length of this what it is and what it means. And it goes into some detail here. You can see that, right? Now we would go through the second connection. Michael and Sandra are Venus to each other. All right, Sandra, what does Venus tell us? What does Venus mean?
Well, Venus is basically all about, we always think about Venus, we think about love, okay? But Venus is far deeper than love. It's more of a soulful rather than just a physical attraction, because the word for Venus, and Venus right now is in Taurus, okay? Or Venus rules Taurus, and we have Uranus in Taurus. And we come very clear that Venus is value. So how do you value yourself and how do you value each other, okay, in a soulful way? This is what this is all about, in a soulful way. So you might have lessons with Saturn and it can be harsh and that type of thing. When it comes to Venus, it's like, what is the true value? Okay, this is really an important one.
Okay, so this one is our second connection. And as we read through it, again, we get a better understanding. It's one of the better connections for any sort of relationship and guarantees a certain amount of compatibility. So then we know that. We know that, okay, we're not really fighting each other right off the hop. I mean, some strong other indicators. And that's one thing I should say here, Sandra, is that this would be different for every couple.
That's right.
Okay, like this is just yours and mine personal relationship reading. This, if we were two different people with two different birth dates, completely different, right?
Exactly.
This applies to us. This would not apply to anybody else, right?
And this is interesting because some reports that you and I have looked at is they look to have beautiful relationships on the outside, but if you get into them, even though you and I have growth issues for each of our souls, this is a very strong one here. It's a mutual, and it's the friendship and a loving energy. So there can be a lot of like challenges and that type of thing, but basically underneath it's like to help each other grow. And this is
and having this one sort of second is a strong indicator that there's somehow we'll be connected one way or another. There's some sort of an energy there that will draw us together in whatever capacity that is in our life. We know that that's not as opposed to a magnet that pushes this way. This
right.
one kind of creates this kind of, and we know that connection is. Okay.
And I think this is really interesting. I got this insight at Flash because as a King of Hearts, that's your second connection, and that's the father and family card. And for me, it's the Three of Clubs, which is about creativity and writing. And I think this had a lot to do with Game Changer. Okay.
Yeah.
We came together in a Venus soulful way, and that's why we look at the soul growth and the importance of self-discovery of self. It just kind of makes sense to me just at this moment. Okay.
Yeah, it does. And like I say, these are lifetime connections, okay? Not just like the Destiny Report, the one that we talked about on the first segment. That was a yearly personal Destiny Report, and it changed every year. These connections stay throughout the course of our lifetime.
Right.
We do have a report that does just make the yearly connection, how you're influencing each other over that one particular year, which is a little bit probably condensed version, right? This is over the course of a lifetime. And so now, still talking about the second connection, you can see we're still changing pages, but now we're going to move. So let's just, the affirmation, all right? Let's just say after we've read through all of that, the Venus connection, the affirmation for me: I truly appreciate having a partner with whom I have so much in common. Sandra is someone I could spend the rest of my life with because it is easy to be with her. Affirmation for Sandra: life with Michael is very comfortable and easy on many levels. I am grateful for the many things we share and have in common. So inside of a relationship, you get affirmations at the very end of your connections, and you start to realize, okay, this is important. And these are like any other kind of an affirmation. Take it with you. Say it over the course of a day. Remember it when you're having a hard time. All right, the third connection between us, Sandra, is Mars. Now tell us a bit about Mars.
Well, Mars is actually the warrior, okay? And Mars is about action. So Mars can be really kind of pushy. So there's two things. Mars can be either very aggressive or just very assertive, but it's very strong because it's about action, okay?
Okay, so whereas Venus probably carries more of the feminine energy, Mars would be a lot more testosterone, right? A lot more masculine energy.
Right.
Okay, so under this influence, we're more likely to be more passionate, more argumentative, all kinds of different things mixed into that particular connection, right?
Right.
And so it says Sandra is the Mars card to me in the spiritual spread. So again, another reference to a past life connection. So this is really cool to see if you have been brought together from a past life to, you know, for some unfinished business, some reasons that perhaps, you know, I don't understand, but someone wiser might. So then it will go through, it shows again, the connection is with Sandra's creative, the father, she talked about that, right? So that's really going down through here. And again, the King of Hearts is the father, if you have a King of Hearts on your birth card or your planetary ruling card, it's very much about being family orientated, okay? And the King of Hearts is the strongest king, let's face it, the king, family orientated card. Okay. The Three of Clubs is very much about creativity and information, knowledge, okay? And so there's the connection there somehow.
See, this is interesting. I'm just reading. There's an equal possibility that Sandra and Michael were involved in some sort of relationship in that lifetime, which resulted in unresolved feelings of anger and hostility.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it says right there. And so interesting enough here is a lot of people have a really hard time with anger. To me, okay, knowing who I am, and in the shadow work, when we suppress, it's like kids. 1 minute they're crying, 1 minute they're laughing, whatever. And the more we suppress the anger, the harder it is because it will come out explosive. So anger to me is just like nature. One day the sun's shining and all of a sudden we have a thunderstorm. So it's to kind of be able to handle and release and dissipate what's happening. But what happens is usually it's built up for years and years and years. And that's where you get these people that walk around and kill and murder and whatever, because it goes to rage. Okay. So working with your anger and hostility and that type of thing to let it dissipate is really important. Okay.
Well, so as we go through this, we'll start to see a pattern that starts to emerge, okay? And so we know that some connections are more compatible than others. Pluto is very much of a challenge. There are a couple of others that if you've seen a bunch of them in your first 10 cards or 10 connections, they might create too much of a challenge. For example, Mars, if we had 1 or 2 connections, probably okay, right? We can turn the passion into something creative. If we have 3 or 4 Mars connections inside those 10 connections, that probably would be like a battle. You probably want to be at war with each other. So probably a good thing to stay away from, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So as we go through the 3rd connection, now we're going to go into a Jupiter, not Jupiter, 4th connection. This is a Pluto card. Okay.
No.
This is a Jack of Hearts with Chandra's karma card, right? And so Pluto will have something. Sandra probably wants to tell us a little bit about Pluto.
Well, let me tell you, I love Pluto. I love Pluto, Uranus, whatever. These are what we call the transpersonal planets. And these planets are where the evolution of the soul is. The word for Pluto is transformation. And so everybody talks, I want to change, I want to transform, I have Pluto in my first house, my whole life, right from when I was born. It's all about transforming. And people will they sense that I see through them. I'm not trying to see through them, but they see my Plutonian energy, which is very strong. We need to be able to transform ourselves, especially at this time of the shift in consciousness and our ascension process. So Pluto is not an easy card, but if you can work with your transformation, if you really want to become that butterfly, you're that little caterpillar in the chrysalis, and you want to become that butterfly, you're going to go through the process of metamorphosis, and it's not easy, but it's worth it. This is
well, interestingly enough, Sandra, you're reading as you were talking, it goes here down to the 2nd paragraph. Sandra represents certain qualities or characteristics that are a part of Michael's personal transformation in this lifetime. She may challenge Michael at times, making him feel confronted or even threatened. This may or may not be intentional because in Pluto relationships, merely the presence of the Pluto person is enough to affect a lot of change in the other person. So you can see the benefit of one Pluto connection. Like obviously you have helped me in my transformation immensely. And so, but it's right there. Like if I just would have met you and had the benefit of this report, I could have known that beforehand, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
No, that's fine. You have anything else you want to add?
Well, because Pluto is the transformer, and I've been known to be a transformer in people's lives as a muse, because my energy just kind of helps break them apart so they can really get to the soul. And so it's not a superficial personality, it's a soul.
And see, you can see that you're the Pluto card to me. So in this particular connection, you can see how the influences come from you to me. And so that's not always the case. Sometimes I will be with you or we will be together mutually in different connections. But this one, I'm feeling your Pluto transformation, quite strongly, right, in this particular connection. And that's true over the course of our relationship, right?
And it's a good thing that you're very strong physically, because Pluto can be really powerful and not mean to be. It just is, because it comes from truth. It's got to be, let's move to truth and reality. Okay, and this one is...
Okay, so that affirmation for me here under that Pluto connection, I accept Sandra as a catalyst for my own personal transformation. I consciously apply myself to my inner work while being grateful for Sandra's presence in my life. With her, my transformation is accelerated many times over. I accept this change as my own personal responsibility. So you can see the benefit as we start to go through this particular report, right? To people who are considering long-term relationships, this is like invaluable, okay? The 5th connection here, and this is going to be, we are Jupiter to each other, Sandra, in the life spread. So that's in this particular life as we know it, not the past life. No. Tell us a little bit about Jupiter here on Earth.
Well, Jupiter, everybody loves Jupiter. Okay, because Jupiter is very expansive. It's considered one of the most beneficial planets. However, what people don't understand, Pluto does expand. And so Pluto will expand the goodness, but Pluto also expands any kind of debris that.
No, you mean Jupiter, right?
Pardon me, Jupiter.
Yeah.
Jupiter expands. My train of thought went to when Jupiter was in Scorpio. That's when all the sexual stuff came out.
Okay.
It reveals truth. Okay. So here.
Okay, so then what we will look at here is that we have this is a strong connection, based on what Sandra's told us. It's good. This is a good connection for a relationship, right? Beneficial to each party in the mundane or in the real world, right? So this is a beneficial connection. And again, it goes into greater detail. So this is not a connection that would scare you away, right?
No, just go up for a little bit where you were there, because I think this is important. And this again comes back to Game Changer, the relationship, the karmic thing. It is considered, our connection here is considered to be one of the most beneficial influences that exists, and relatively rare, occurring in less than 1% of the population. If taken advantage, this connection can bring some wonderful blessings. And it's a planet of abundance, both material and spiritual. And I really believe that what we've taken or what we've gained from each other is a lot of soulful and personal growth and transformation. So this is an extremely good one. Okay.
Okay, so we'll move through the fifth connection. These are still really strong connections. Remember, they get strongest at the number 1 and then weakest by the time we get to 10. So this is still, relatively strong connection, part of those 10 connections, right? So still, now we go to the 6th, okay? And now,
what was the affirmation for that one?
This is the Uranus card. Sandra's the Uranus card to Michael from a past life. I'm experiencing that. So what's Uranus all about, Sandra?
Oh my God, those are my 2 cards. So Pluto is about transformation and Uranus is truth. And Uranus is helping somebody to wake up, and it's like lightning. These are the 2 most powerful planets, and they are heavy hitters, we call them. So Uranus doesn't let you get away with anything, but it's like lightning. Pluto is like transformation. That's when the nuclear bomb was found. Lightning, it flashes and you get this insight and you wake up. Okay?
So it tells me here that in a past lifetime, we developed a true friendship and mutual respect for each other that is carried over into this lifetime. Now, isn't that kind of cool to know? Yeah. If you're meeting somebody or you're in a relationship with somebody, and you start to get this kind of information, I don't know, for the price of a report, it's something that I would want to have. There's just no way around it.
And right? See, the interesting thing here, it says we have a possibility, but possibly challenge, because it depends on how we're able to allow each other personal freedom, especially when that freedom may scare them or leave them feeling uncertain. And the Uranian relationship is certainly not for everyone. For those who want to, this is it. For those who want to experience the highest form of unconditional love in the context of a intimate relationship. And the whole premise of Game Changer was moving from the codependency relationship type from Pisces, okay, from the Piscean age, where one was the host and one is the parasite, and there's a control, moving into the Aquarian, okay, which is all about being independent, interdependent souls that come together, and so you're not chaining each other. You are able to be the butterfly. Each person becomes their own butterfly through the power of transformation. Beautiful, beautiful.
So look at the information that I would gain here. Michael may be the one who is most affected by Sandra's behavior. At times she may seem to act in such an unexpected manner that I am taken off balance by her. If I place big demands or expectations upon her, Sandra will seem to be even more uncontrollable, unpredictable. which may engender even more uncertainty for him. So there's this kind of information. You sit back and you sit with it and you go, okay, now I got a better grasp on who Sandra is, how I fit into her life. And so then I go, okay, well, this is who she is. She's reacting because she's Sandra, not to aggravate me or to create uncertainty in me. And so I get a better understanding. And so to me, the benefit is immeasurable, right? And again, in more and more detail, and I'd like to go over the whole thing, but we just don't have time, right?
See, there another important thing, Michael, though, if you go back, it says there's a very strong, the Uranus connection provides a psychic link between partners. They just seem to know what each other is thinking. Sometimes they can transmute thoughts to each other. It's a beautiful thing when a Uranus relationship is working well. Both partners are relaxed and unconcerned as to whether or not they will see each other again. Now, the interesting thing here is that, again, it comes back to self. Once you really know yourself, okay, and understand yourself, and you can be accepting. What challenges in relationships is we're not 18 and meeting each other. But this is why it's really good for younger people to look at when they're starting to date people, okay? And also, once you've been through 1 or 2 marriages or blended family and you're all in la-la land, this really brings you down to the reality of what can we really expect. This is going down, what, to the fifth?
Yeah, we're now going to, that's the 6th connection now, right?
Okay.
Perfect. And so it shows me in here, right? Like what I would expect and how I would probably benefit myself if I understood this information, where I would just allow Sandra to be completely free to be herself. In this way, I am creating the relationship of my dreams, one based upon true friendship and unconditional love. So, I mean, you've got to have this kind of information. It just doesn't pop into your head, right? This is pretty cool. So now, Sandra, we go to the 7th connection, which is Sandra is the Venus card to Michael, which means I am attracted to her. I feel that Venus connection again, right? So, again, as we understand the Venus, the Uranus, and so on, we interpret those into our life, we get a pretty basic understanding. And I recognize that because Sandra is the Venus card to me, that means I'm experiencing her on a physical way, probably more than she is me, right? Because this particular connection, she is Venus to me, right?
See, this is really funny. Now, I'm going to be the funny one this time. Michael, yes, you adore me, but you'll get mad at me at her times or irritated by the things she does. So there's an undercurrent there that we can tap into. So friends first, everything else is second. The friends first attitude. And I still maintain all these people come in with especially these young women nowadays that are getting into relationships, they close their eyes or they got this man's face here and their children. Look in the mirror. In order to be a real friend, how are you going? I don't understand people that get married and they're married together for 20, 30 years, and then they jump into bed with somebody else and get a divorce. What was that based on? That was based on lies, total dishonesty. There's no consciousness. People have no conscience when it comes to that. If you can't be friends, and friends can disagree, okay, psychological maturity is we can agree to disagree and respect each other's, unless it's just if you're trying to control or whatever. This is an incredible report, and each time you read it, you get something more out of it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the information, I think, as you go through it, helps you with your own personal growth, particularly inside relationships. You start to look inside yourself and you go, okay, I did kind of restrict her movement a bit. That's something that's probably not a good thing to do. And you bring that inside you. And so moving forward, those aren't situations you create again.
And I have to say something about that, Michael, is that a dear friend of mine, Gus, used to say to me, it's easy when you live on your own. And I was alone for what, 25, 20, 30 years before I met you, never living with anyone. I had some relationships, but very career orientated. And he always used to say, the real work in a relationship is in relationship, when you have to work with somebody on a day-by-day basis. And I think that's where the growth is. If we can come with honesty and openness and not stay in the shadow and be the victim and point fingers at everybody else. Okay, here's the 7.
Okay, so I think that was still the same one. We're still into the same one. So and it tells us a little bit about here, affirmations again. These are, 10 different affirmations you have. It's very detailed. So the 8th connection here, Michael, is the Uranus card to Sandra in the life spread. So the situation's reverse, where we both require a certain amount of freedom within the relationship, right?
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of freedom. Neither one of us like to have restrictions placed on us. And so interesting, we have the same connection, just one reversed with the other now, right?
And again, this is so prevalent to the book, Michael, because it's about the Aquarian relationship, the new form of relationship, of understanding. You have to remember Uranus is a higher octave to Mercury. So that's the ascension process we're going through with the raising of consciousness and the raising of the frequencies. Beautiful.
So then we go down to the 9th connection, and now we're getting down towards, these are less significant connections, like the influence is a little bit less than it was as we went from top down, from 1 down. So Michael and Sandra are Mars to each other in the life spread, all right? And again, we've talked about Mars. Having a couple of Mars is probably pretty good. As long as you channel it in the right direction, you do activities together, you don't butt heads with each other because you're living, kind of like you do that, I do this, and so you have to channel the Mars energy in the right way, and then you can't really be competitive with each other, right? It becomes a challenge.
Yeah.
But it's very passionate. It's very, if you get a project together, you can work together well with that. So like we did with the book, we wrote that book, even though it was challenging and it took a lot of time and, a lot of, we just struggled. Let's face it, there were times we struggled to make it happen in the way we wanted to, but that Mars energy allowed us to do that, okay? So we go down to the 10th connection, Sandra.
Yeah.
Last one, right? And so again, you can see the detail as we go through this, the personal growth in here, the information, and how we interact with each other. Okay, what we take away from this allows us to recognize, okay, there's just no way this can work. Like, look at the challenges we have all the way through the report, and some people do. I had that one where your granddaughter and her fellow that you were curious about, not so much her, but just you, and nothing in that made sense. They were just in a battle with each other right from the top down, right? And nothing ever materialized there, but I could see it in that report clearly. That could never work.
But
right?
just interesting enough at that point, Michael, because I'm doing more in-depth relationships, and I really recommend this first when we come to a couple. So they have to get their personal destiny report first. That was like last week's segment.
Yeah.
And we look at this. And then I will work with them. And I've got to the point that when they start this blah, 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 I won't work with them because I can't change anyone. If you can't listen to what is here and what my knowing is from your personal astrology chart and your transits, I'm not going to waste my time because you know what? There's 10 people waiting that really do want to transform at this particular time. This is very important.
Okay, so the last one is the moon card, and by no means have we seen all the different kinds of connections.
No.
There are many more that didn't show up in our chart. They're just yours and my personal connection, right? In someone else's, you would see something different, okay? And so the last one here is Sandra's a moon card to me, excuse me, and which means I kind of think, like, I like it when you're around and the sun sort of sets and rises on you. As far as I'm concerned, from that point of view, the moon connection is a very strong connection, right? And I've seen people like my brother's connection with his wife, and they've been together forever. That moon connection is way at the top for them, right? And it's a very, very strong connection to hold them together.
Yeah. So this is more the spiritual spread here too. And it's also saying this is an earned connection. Again, past life. So we can do a lot of past life here as opposed to sitting with someone. I've had past life readings like 40 years ago with somebody that was incredible, and had other ones, and it's just like, wow, it's not making sense. My intuition isn't there. This shows you.
Well, lots of people too that I've met over the years have said, you know, I think we've been together in a past life, or not necessarily talking about me, but maybe their partner or whatever, right? Somebody in their life. And I think I was with that person in the past life, but you don't really know. And then this report comes along, and if you're still with that person or that person's in your life, you can go, wow, we were. There's the connection. And interestingly enough, this can be taken to a family member. This is a lover's profile, but you can also take it to see how you react or connect to family members.
And I think that's Michael, because that's what we'll do next week. But here I want to say this is really important, because you see, Uranus is truth and an awakener. I'm very strong Pluto, very strong Uranus, okay? And so I have something called claircognizance. I know and I see, I watch people when they talk, and it's a manipulative thing. And most times it's a manipulative on the female, because the female who's looking for a slave, unless she's become her own generator and co-creator. And what they'll do is, oh my God, sweetie, we've been together in like 10 past lives and whatever. And she just sucks this naive young man in, or men, because of her sexual attraction. So there's no soul connection. It's a form of manipulation. There's no manipulation. This is objective.
Well, if we go through this, I'll just read these 2 paragraphs so we understand better what this moon connection is, right? In this relationship, Chandra is a moon card influence to Michael. Her presence in Michael's life is like a healing balm that soothes him. She provides Michael with nurturing support and a sense of foundation, security, home, and settledness. Michael, on the other hand, brings many good things into the life of Chandra: new ideas, fresh perspectives, new information, a broadening of experiences, an important direction for the relationship. Whether they realize it or not, Michael is the so-called leader of this relationship. That is the nature of being the sun card in a moon-sun relationship. When we envision the ideal male-female relationship, a symbol that comes to mind is the sun and the moon. One rules the day, the other the night. One is fire, the other is water. Together they balance each other out and fulfill each other's vacant spots. Sun warms the water, the moon, and the water cools the sun. This is the most ideal connection for a couple who have these essential male and female qualities, and nearly guarantees the success of the relationship. Thus, it is not surprising how many successful marriages are based upon this important connection. And like I told you earlier, my brother's connection, this is right at the very top. And they have been together in a wonderful, warm, nurturing relationship for nearly 40 years now, okay? So, awesome to know this. Now you sit in with you want this report, and you get to know what some of these connections mean. That one sits high for you. That's a pretty good positive indicator. You might have something worth working on, right? So I think the information that we can gather from this report, I mean, how invaluable is it for the cost of the report?
I know. To me, self-discovery is one of the most important things. And this is my philosophy. What's happened with our world is we have such an external connection, hungry eyes to getting, wanting, greed, needing, having to, whatever, when this new shift is not external. Where we're going to find our peace is more internal. So it's time to move within, and then we do the 8, okay, which has become our own powerful blend blend the non-spiritual with the physical, okay? And so right now, this is why this is so important. As I said, last week's first segment was on your own card. So find that out about yourself and do your work.
Because each of us have our own cards. These cards are our personal indicators. But now if I look at this, Sandra, okay, now having gone through this,
right,
say there is, in a nutshell, the 10 strongest connections for us. So I would say, okay, Sandra's in my life to help me learn some lessons that I need to know. We are attracted to each other. We have passionate energy. There's transformation with Pluto. Jupiter is going to give me the where we're good for each other. There's beneficial to each other. We can see with the 2 Uranus signals there that we each need freedom within the relationship. Again, another Venus connection and a Mars, so we can work together as long as we challenge or channel the energy in the right direction. And at the very end, you know, like I like having you around me. There's a positive vibration I get because it feels like you think I'm a pretty good guy, and what guy doesn't like that, right?
Right. And so the big thing here is Pluto, Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter. So together it's very transformative. So it's a really soulful relationship, Michael, that we just need to have the freedom to explore, be, and do, and know that we are working on unresolved whatever issues, bringing it forth. And to me, this is the reason Game Changer came through. What we personally had to work through this lifetime. Before I met you, it was like you had your family, you had been divorced, me the same thing. It's like, now, where do we stand here, and what's our truth based on our previous experiences and based on past life? Uranus is powerful, Pluto's planet, Saturn, and everybody has to go through that. Nobody is just like, oh, my world is going to be so perfect. I'm ego, I get whatever I want. Well, sweetheart, that's being torn down now because it's about the spiritual. It's about doing the work. Michael, you brought back to me, you're a fitness person. You were an Ironman, which I really never paid much attention to the physical. It was just like I worked hard. I had a lot of energy, that type of thing. So I've had to learn that. So we have a spiritual fitness and we have a physical fitness that we need to blend. That's all I have to say.
Okay, that just about wraps it up for us. But like I say, there's a lot more indicators that did not show up on our chart that are still really important, but they were not a connection that we had. Okay, no. So if someone else gets a hold of this report, again, it's personalized, and it will look entirely different from this.
Right. And what I want to say is we've got 5 reports. So next week, I think it would be really good if we looked at the family, because there's so much dysfunction in family right now. Okay. And especially when, this girl goes and she is with another man and she has kids here. And they're alienating their father. I think that would be a very good one. Okay. Is that you will never stop the bonds of spirit and soul tie between a child and his father. I don't care if you have 2, 3, 4 men in your life. The same with the man. How many women in his life? Okay, the father and the mother are the biological parents. So don't be so erratic and unconscious. Oh my God, this is your new daddy. No. It don't matter if that, and it's proven because I do a lot of work with parent alienation. I'm in some of their groups. Sometimes it's 15, 20 years, and that child has been told either the mother's bad or the dad's bad. When she or he grows and they're in their 20s and they realize they connect with the other parent, they now have hate for the person that did do the parent alienation. I lost how many years of my life with either my mother or my father because you wanted me to have a new mommy or a new daddy. Please, people, stop the insanity, okay? You are screwing up these children's minds. Okay, and that's why the justice system is we're tired of parents using the children as chattels. You are affecting their cognitive skills so that they will never reach their full potential. Okay, so I think next week is perfect. So I want to thank you, Michael. If you have any questions, you can contact us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and send questions in. You know, if you want to have a question, if you want to have a topic, like we've got 5 of the Destiny reports, and then I'm going to go into the area of astrology. I'll show you a chart and how we bring them together. And this one is based on the 52 days, okay, of it. And then I look at where your nodes are, which is not in the report, and the different moon cycles and the eclipses and that type of thing. So I'm really excited, Michael, that we decided to do this. I mean, it is a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. And I think together we have a broad range of experience, life experience, spiritual experience. Together we have that. And so we can discuss fairly intelligently a broad range of subjects. And where we fall short, I mean, we can find somebody who will join this telecast with us. Okay.
Exactly.
And help us. And so the audience gets a chance to have their questions answered, intelligently, soulfully, okay?
Exactly.
Spiritually, you name it. It's there physically, like I have a lot of experience with wellness.
Yes.
You have a tremendous amount of experience with spirituality and astrology and connection to source and divine. I mean, ways to make your life more fulfilling. It's important for other people. I didn't have this resource when I was, like younger and just kind of like trying to figure this out all on my own and ignoring things I didn't understand. I had no help, right? This is pretty cool, and we'd love to help.
Yeah, and we're all unfolding. And guess what? At the stage I am in life, I'm still learning. And I have many teachers, and I've been blessed and that type of thing. So, I mean, we're all teaching each other. My students used to teach me. It's funny because I just had a connection with one student today who we've been friends for so many years. And she was a tyrant, okay? She was a free-spirited girl, okay? Loved her soul. And I just said, you can't stay in class right now. I think and the parents were connected with me. And she turned out to be one of the most beautiful souls. But I had the ability and knew to give her freedom. She needed to grow. And she grew and created and became her own generator. She was kind of a rebel. And she's just a beautiful soul today. So I want to thank you all. And we'll see you next week. And next week, we're actually going to look, Michael, that's a very good idea, at a family. We might do a couple family. We might do like a mother and a father, or a step parent and a whatever, and that type of thing. I don't know if
really interesting to find out if you were in a blended family. And again, there's that sort of antagonist between the not biological person and the other person's children. But perhaps the non-biological parent could see a connection to the other child, and it might change the way he looks at that particular interaction. He might realize that he has an important role to play in this other child's life in a way he never looked at it before, or she never looked at it before. Or something could be there that could be beneficial, right?
Right. Well, that's the whole part of being conscious. When you're not conscious, you're not aware, and you're not mindful. You're living in ego. I know. That's the personality. I know. When you connect with spirit, you become more conscious, you raise your frequency, you're more mindful, and you're more aware. And at that point, you can become the observer. So it's not like you're fighting yourself. You're surrendered to spirit. So you become your own observer and witness of, how am I acting or how am I reacting? Okay. And so you have a lot more peace and balance and harmony. And that's what children need nowadays. Okay. So thank you, everybody. And I'm going to now